he had to feel it worse than we do, heavier than we do, because he's the guy prosecuting this war, and their death. He's the commander in chief. These, all this stuff happened. He's the boss, and that's got to weigh very heavy on you. He knows what it's like to lose a child, so he has to feel.
Yeah, I didn't even think of that angle. I mean,
for all
the parents,
son's mother and father who died here and throughout the whole war. It's got to weigh on him. No wonder the man was depressed.
From the Gettysburg Museum of History Studios, you're listening to Addressing Gettysburg.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Addressing Gettysburg. And today, it is a special day. It is the anniversary of the Gettysburg Address, a speech given by Abraham Lincoln during the dedication of the Soldiers National Cemetery, now known as Gettysburg National Cemetery. And with us today is an old friend who used to co-host the show with us. And all of you who've been listening since the very beginning will know this name. You know this voice. You miss this voice. I know you do because you tell me. Bob Steenstra. Welcome back, Bobby.
Well, thank you, Matt.
You're welcome.
Pleasure being here.
You're welcome. And of course, also joining us in the back, running cameras, is the great Mikey B. Hello, Mikey.
Hello, Matt. It's like being back in the shack, but a little more room.
A lot more room than back in the shack. And so today we're just talking about the Gettysburg Address. I don't know where we're going to go with it. Bob's got some ideas. I'm going to let him lead the way and we'll go on that journey together. But before we get into that, you may be thinking to yourself, yes, I've heard of the Gettysburg Address. Or yes, I had to recite it in 5th grade, but I don't remember much of it except for 47 years ago. And then maybe the next line you confuse with the preamble of the Constitution. We don't know how your mind works. But Bob is going to help us all out, and he's going to recite the Gettysburg Address, which is something that he tries to incorporate probably in every tour that you do, right, Bob?
Just about.
Yeah, now I've been on plenty of tours with Bob as the guide, and I think it would have been odd if you didn't include it, and I would remember that because you always made sure to include that. And so why don't we do this now, Bob? Go ahead and give us the Gettysburg Address in Japanese. Thank you, Bob.
77 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation or any nation so conceived and so dedicated can long endure. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who here gave their lives that that nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this, but in a larger sense. We cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave men, living and dead, who struggled here have consecrated it, far above our poor power to add or detract. The world will little note nor long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. It is for us, the living, rather, to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion, that we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people shall not perish from the earth.
Very, very good, Bob. I'm taking notes here. That's why I'm sounding like I'm not paying attention, but I was.
I understand.
Okay, shall not perish. All right, now before we started, Bob said to me that he's going to emphasize certain words when he reads it. And so as we were going through, I was just copying down the words that I think you were punching.
Emphasizing? Okay.
Yeah. Now, obviously, some of them you absolutely were emphasizing, but let me go through it. Tell me if I missed any.
Okay.
Okay. Here.
How many times?
Oh, well, I don't know if it was, I believe it was the first use of the word here was the most punchy of them all.
Any idea how many times that word is used in 10 sentences?
I'm going to throw out a random number, because I don't know. I'm going to say 12.
Well, that's more. 8.
8, okay.
But that's a lot.
That is a lot.
You would think I would
Almost
think
once a sentence.
that if I was writing a speech that I might not repeat that particular word so many times.
Unless you want to emphasize it.
Or yes, absolutely. And if this place affected you when you were here.
Okay.
And
yeah.
I know you get this.
Yeah, I do. Mikey does too. I think you said that before you came here to the studio, you went over to the cemetery to kind of, as the kids would say, vibe with it.
That's exactly the word I use with my family.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
And I know Mike and I have had this conversation before where we both, when we're having, maybe a rough day or a rough period of life or something, we'll go out to different parts of the battlefield to vibe with it. And it helps us go through whatever we're going through. For me, and Mike can speak for himself, but for me, it's basically, nothing I'm going through is insurmountable, but these guys are dead. These people died here, or there are people who died here, depending where I am. And they don't have another chance to better something. They're done. And that always makes me sad, because, they didn't die of natural causes. They didn't die in a car accident. They didn't die falling down the stairs, while living their lives. They died while they put their lives on hold for what would ultimately be the sake of others, because they're gone. And even if the sake of others means their family and they're only seeing that far down the line, whatever, they're doing it for the sake of others, or at least we'd like to think so. How about you, Mike? What do you get out of it?
No, it's pretty similar to that. There's something. Now, I've read or I've listened to that speech many times, and as Bob was reading it, I don't know why today I was focusing on it a bit more. But it's especially that line of that. We can't consecrate. Oh, excuse me.
Getting choked up.
Sorry. Yeah. No.
Mm-hmm. Lincoln did.
We can't consecrate this ground. What they did consecrated this ground.
Right.
And Gettysburg, whenever I tell people about Gettysburg, there's something so unique about this place that's indescribable. And what I mean by unique, when you're out there, you feel it's your place. Gettysburg is my place.
Yep.
Like, I know other people say it's their place, but to me, it's mine. You can't understand how I feel here. But when you talk to other people, they feel the same way. And to me, only in a place where so much has been sacrificed, where something so unfathomable has happened, can give you that feeling. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how to describe what that is, but for me, it's that level of comfort. Like you said, Matt, bad times in my life, bad days, I go out there to the cemetery, I go to the wheat field, and you're right, I think of how lucky I am to live twice as long as so many of these kids that are left there.
Yeah, that happened a few years ago when I first moved back here. The story. Before I moved back, the state I was in, besides New Jersey, the mental state I was in. And, it takes a while to come out of that. And you have to do a lot of faking it till you make it and stuff. And it's very hard to do when every fiber of your being says, go hide in your room, and you put yourself out there. For anybody to do a normal thing, like a regular job or something like that. But here, this idiot is like putting himself out there on the internet, right? Mm-hmm. And where all the, the potentially nastiest people you'll ever encounter are lurking. And when I would have just a tough time or something, I remember this one time I went out to the McPherson barn and I was reading from Fonz's Day One book. And I don't even remember what it was specifically that I was reading, but it was about what happened there around the McPherson barn. And then I just kind of like put the book down in my lap and I just kind of like stretched my neck was kind of bugging me. So I like stretched my head back and I was looking up at the clouds and it was a bright sunny day, but there's these, little cotton ball clouds and the wind was, it was March, April. And so there was a good stiff wind coming and it was just blowing these clouds along at a rapid pace. And I'm like, oh, that's nice. It's like very serene and very comforting and stuff. But then like somewhere the idea popped in my head that, what if like right here where I'm sitting, a helpless soldier was laying on his back, unable to move with no help because I'm thinking of a Union soldier because, the Confederates are pushing him back. He knows they're coming, but he can't move to see. He can't move to get out of the way. All he can do is stare up at this sky and see these clouds floating overhead. And what are his final thoughts as he's about to meet his maker? Probably his mother.
Yeah.
If he's a young boy, if he's 20 or 19 or something, probably his mother and maybe his wife, if she doesn't annoy him, and his children, right? If he's got children, or maybe none of that, because I've never died yet.
Right.
So I don't know what your brain is doing as your body is dying and your organs are shutting down and you're losing blood. Are you even aware of who you are at that point, or are you just a dying organism? All these thoughts were going through my head because of sitting in that one place. I'm sure there's human beings out there that can have these thoughts without having to go to a special place, but I'm not that deep. So I have to be there in order to make that connection. And so, I think we all, and I guarantee you there's 1,000 people in the audience right now who have similar stories to what you, me, and Mike are talking about. This place gives us some kind of comfort. For me, it's humility. It humiliates me. No, I mean, it humbles me.
I was wondering if you meant you were in a state of intoxication, like that one Southern soldier wrote. That story? We had breakfast in the state of Virginia.
Yes.
Yeah. That.
Today we were 5 states or something.
Yeah.
And the fifth,
breakfast in the state of Virginia, dinner in the state of Maryland, supper in the state of Pennsylvania, and we spent the night in a state of intoxication.
There you go. Yes, that's what it was. Yes. So anyway, sorry to take that away from you, but here is one of them.
I went just Saturday through the visitor center again because I had a good friend come out and gave him a tour. So we went through that together. And I noticed that in the cyclorama, they quote Chamberlain's speech, "In great deeds, something abides."
Oh, it's a great one.
Right. And at the very end, there's also that quote in the last thing you see in the museum. The quote of "In great deeds, something abides." I've got it here if you want to hear it.
Yeah, read it for everybody just in case they don't know what you're talking about.
"In great deeds, something abides. On great fields, something stays. Forms change and pass, bodies disappear, but spirits linger to consecrate ground for the vision place of souls. Generations that know us not, and that we know not of, heart drawn to see where and by whom great things were suffered and done for them, shall come to this deathless field to ponder and dream. And lo, the shadow of a mighty presence shall wrap them in its bosom, and the power of the vision pass into their souls."
I hate to admit this because we're talking about the Gettysburg Address.
Yeah.
And I love the Gettysburg Address. There are lines in the Gettysburg Address that to this day, every time I read them, especially if I read it out loud. By the way, I have tried to record the Gettysburg Address, and I wanted to get guest guides, the cast of the show, and everybody, all of us to record it, and then I would,
that would be cool.
String us all together.
I've heard that done before, but that'd be cool from the guys.
Well, I did it before with me and the patrons. I had the patrons do it, and I strung it together. Ken Burns did it. I saw something on PBS. I think it was Ken Burns that had school children do it or something like that. So it's not my original idea, but it's a cool thing. I tried to just record myself doing it, and I can't get through it without choking up. So I lose my form, right? And I'm like, I can't put this out. I could never get through it.
Well, that is good.
It is good.
Lincoln couldn't do it either. and he gave the speech. Now, I don't know that he was crying during his speech, but there's eyewitness accounts that he was wiping tears away from this prayer, Stockton's prayer, and during Everett's speech that he was wiping tears away.
Because it was so long and boring.
I don't think Everett's speech was boring.
Okay.
At parts, maybe it was. It was at parts.
After a while, it probably is. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, it's just that sense of something important happening here. That's what we're talking about, this place and how important it is. And that's why, get back to how many times he uses the word here in 10 sentences, 270 words, depending on which version of the speech you're talking about. But that's quite a concentration. So anyway, we were talking about emphases.
But so my point, though, about bringing up not getting through the Gettysburg Address is that quote from Chamberlain
about here. I mean, he said that here.
About the vision place of souls, that whole thing that you just read.
Right.
I think actually is harder for me to do because it is beautiful. It is. He takes what Lincoln says in the Gettysburg Address, the beautiful parts of that, and which the whole thing is beautiful, but like the end is as he's nearing the end. That's where I start to get choked up.
Yeah.
And he just builds on, I guess, the sentiment of Lincoln's Gettysburg Address in a very poetic way. Now, granted, he had a lot more time to think about it and probably work it over before he published it and everything. So, like, you could perfect it better. But I just that always moves me. That quote there, it gives me chills. Like, it just stops me. Yeah. But okay, so let's go through the other words though. Another word I noticed was "we."
Okay.
Did you mean to do that?
No.
Okay. Well, then we'll move on.
But we could tie this in later. But of course, the Constitution begins with "we the people,"
right?
And I believe that somewhere in his subconscious, if not conscious mind, when he's crafting these words of the people, by the people, for the people, he admitted Daniel Webster's influence on that because he's not the first person to come up with this concept. But we know, in the last time I was here, we talked about the golden apple in the silver pitcher frame.
Right.
The influence of the reference from his friend Alexander Stephens, the Confederate vice president. Okay. And the silver pitcher frame was the Constitution. The golden apple, which is the heart and soul of America, is the Declaration of Independence, right? So there might be an emphasis in my mind, subconscious, about "we the people," but
well, did you? Which copy did you use, by the way, when you read that?
That's the Bliss copy.
The Bliss copy, okay.
And that's the one I always use on tours because that was his favorite copy. It was his last. It was the only one he signed. It was the only one that he dated. And when they were trying to figure out what version to put on the Lincoln Memorial in the early 20s, I think 22 maybe, Robert Lincoln was still alive, and he said that this was his father's favorite, and he was advocating that version be the one that's used. That's the one that's in the White House. That's the one that is most often quoted.
Okay. So I think the "we" that you emphasized, does it make sense that it was now we are engaged in a great civil war, or we are, no, it was we are met on a great battlefield of that war, is, I think.
Yeah, what I was trying to emphasize there, and I guess I didn't do a very good job, is that we're met on a great battlefield of that. We're here. It's
so you wanted to emphasize battlefield.
It's the whole concept of place is something that I'm appreciating more and more. That's not the only thing, but the concept of place.
Right.
Because he made it a priority to come here. His schedulers had scheduled him to get on a train on the morning of the 19th, very early, come on up here, get off, make a speech, and get back. Well, not a speech, a few appropriate remarks, and get back. His son, Tad, had been ill. Mary did not want him to come here. He changed his whole schedule. He told his, I don't know, I say schedulers, I don't know what they would have been called back then. His Mike or Dave.
Secretary?
Yeah. But he had them rearrange things so that he could take the train the day before. He didn't want the whole event to be kind of fly by night, in, out, go. He wanted to experience this place. And I started with that quote and with this whole concept of place, because that's informing me and helping me appreciate the speech in a much greater way because of how he emphasized it. The night before he got on the train. So probably on the 17th of November is when he sat at his desk in the White House and wrote out the copy of the Gettysburg Address. This is going to take more explanation, but he wrote out in pen on Executive Mansion stationery a speech. But what he held in his hand the day he gave that speech was one page, was that, with only one incredibly notable change. But the second page was written on a piece of foolscap that he got from David Wills.
A piece of what?
It's just a term for a type of paper back then.
What was the term?
Foolscap.
Foolscap.
Like fool's cap, but it's not. It has nothing to do with fools or caps. It's just what they called this particular type of writing paper.
Never heard that.
And it was lined. Anyway, he asked for a piece of paper. Actually, he wrote something on the night before the speech, too. So he came basically with the speech prepared. The wonderful story by Mary Shipman Andrews, a perfect tribute that came out in the early 1900s, that he wrote it on the train on the way here. A Southern woman, by the way. There's absolutely no truth to that at all. It's a wonderful story, but and I'm still surprised by how many people come to Gettysburg today.
Thinking he wrote it on a train.
Yeah, and they tell me, he wrote it on a train on a piece of like scrap paper or something, didn't he? And there's no truth to that at all.
Is that why his voice was quivering when he read it? It's shaky writing. Score.
But here's the point. The night before he got on that train, he called William Saunders, the landscape architect, to the Executive Mansion.
William Saunders, the guy who he
laid out the cemetery plan.
Laid out. That's the word I was looking for. Yes.
And he asked Saunders to bring his diagram, his plan for the cemetery. Lincoln's already very interested in this place. He's read about it a lot. I mean, it's only 4 months later, but there's official records. I'm sure he's reading some of those, and there's newspaper accounts of the Battle of Gettysburg. And anyway,
I would have to imagine for him, Gettysburg stands out more than maybe other battles because it was an part of my French, an oh shit moment, because the Confederates got into Union territory.
You think of the stakes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so he was very intently interested in the Battle of Gettysburg. And then, Sickles, while the battle is going on, gets down there and gets in his ear.
Right.
So it's
he's intently focused on this.
Yes. There's also that element of him coming to this place, this unique situation of the battle happening in recent memory, his decisions as an executive person, this war, that must have been heavy on his conscience. And now he was going where these boys fought and are buried.
Right.
So that must have been a very emotional come to reality for him in that way.
Excellent point, Mike. Excellent point. This morning before I came here, I went over there to pick up those vibes, as you said. And I've done this a number of times, but I got real close to the Henry K. Bush Brown bust of Lincoln there at the Lincoln Address Memorial.
Right.
And I just looked into him. Now, I do this a lot on the talks I give at the cemetery, the tours. I ask people, what do you see? What emotions do you see in this man? Why do you think Kirk Bush Brown did it this way? And sometimes I learn a lot from what the people say, but the depression, the melancholy, the weight of the war.
Sure.
And Mike, what you were saying is true. That's why he's going to start crying or wiping tears away, according to eyewitnesses, when Edward Everett is talking about the sacrifices of these people. And you could say long and boring. Part of that might be true to parts of that speech.
Yeah.
But that man was the Taylor Swift of his day.
Yeah.
Okay. You want a crowd, you invite Taylor Swift. You want a crowd, you invite Edward Everett.
Right.
And there was a reason Lincoln was told, your part is to make, quote, a few appropriate remarks after the main oration. And boy, what a godsend. What a godsend. Anyway, where was I going with this? These senior moments here. The place is very, very important to Lincoln. In fact, he calls Saunders to the White House, and he's very interested. I mean, I've got in my mind, he's got his spectacles out, and he's looking down at the plans. And he was very thankful that Saunders' vision of equality, the bigger states don't have the front row seats. New Jersey's in front of Pennsylvania in the cemetery, right, Mike? Did you notice, Mike?
Yeah.
Did you notice that someone put well, there you go. Someone put a...
Mike's the only person from New Jersey I know who defends New Jersey, but go ahead.
I'll play to the death.
Yeah, and all three of us are from New Jersey.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, all three of us will live there.
I know. We all left, but one of us can't leave it behind.
Son of New Jersey.
What, Mikey?
You're a self-loathing son of New Jersey.
I am. I'm a self-hating Jerseyan.
Okay. But Mike, you might want to go by there before it blows away again. But I had to write it and put it up against the Kentucky Memorial. But someone put a wreath there with the New Jersey flag from New Jersey, and they put little New Jersey flags on selected graves of just the New Jersey section of the cemetery.
Right.
But the whole point is, Lincoln was impressed with Saunders. He had the same kind of equality emphasis in the laying out of the cemetery that Lincoln was trying to achieve in the speech as well. And he was pleased that the big states are in the back and the little states are in the front. He was pleased that we're not having a section for officers that get more attention than enlisted men, that the men were being taken from where they were originally buried and just buried, as they came. And Lincoln was asking specific questions about Little Round Top, Culp's Hill, Cemetery Hill, Seminary Ridge. He knew these names already. So he was very interested in this place. He has the speech basically written already, although he has told some that he wants to work on it some more. So when he arrives by train, and remember, he changed the whole schedule to get here on time so he could spend time at this place. Mm-hmm. So the night before, he kind of excuses himself for an hour or more, and he's writing on another piece of foolscap. He's writing. And we don't know what changes that was that he made to whatever he had written in the White House. We know what he wrote in the White House was written in pen. There were no scratch outs, and it was on Executive Mansion stationery, so that he must have had many drafts. I don't know about you, but I can't write in pen without scratch outs and changes.
No, you got to do pencil until you know what you want to do.
Right. And we know that Lincoln was a little anxious. Wouldn't you be if they asked you, Mike or Matt, to sing a song like in between so Taylor Swift can get a break? You've got to sing a song?
I think I would do a fine job with Wichita lineman.
I'd blow her out of the water.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Bad analogy.
Here's what a real song sounds like, Taylor. I am a lineman for the county. And then everybody's like, what is...
Would you say you're lying for the county? Or
I'm a liar.
Or for the bounty? Are you a bounty hunter? Jumper?
I am lying for the bounty.
Anyway, this place is important to him. He comes. He's already basically written a speech, although he wanted to make some changes. He wasn't happy with the ending of it yet, he's told a few people. He comes, he spends some time at the Wills house, and he does something else. But that's not the paper he had in his hand either. What does he do? He wakes up early the next morning. He wanted to see where his friend John Reynolds was killed. He wanted to go to the place, not just where Reynolds was killed, but so many others. He wanted to see this place. He wanted to experience it, like what we were talking about. How this place is so meaningful to us, what Joshua Lawrence Chamberlain was talking about in that speech. So he and Secretary of State Seward, and Seward had helped him with the end of the speech the night before. Typical. Seward did that for the first inaugural. Those parts that we love about the first inaugural, the mystic chords of memory, although Seward's was a slightly different. The better angels of our nature, those were Seward's touch. And they weren't even friends yet. They were still rivals. I mean, Lincoln wasn't even inaugurated when he was asking his rival. And Seward at that point thought he was going to be the president. And Lincoln was going to have to be like his puppet. But anyway, so he had gotten some help from Seward, had run some things by Seward, as was his wont to do. But he went on a tour. He went out to visit where John Reynolds died. He would have seen the seminary building. He probably would have seen Lee's headquarters. He would have seen people selling souvenirs. Can you believe this about Gettysburg?
Amazing.
Relics. People had tables, maybe not that early in the morning, but when he came in the train earlier that night, there were people with relics they were selling. He very possibly could have seen still some battle damage in the town. He doesn't take a full tour like we do today, but at that time of year, November, and at that stage of lack of modern development and everyone wanting trees, I'm sure you could see the battlefield better than we can today.
Oh, absolutely.
From the south end of Seminary Ridge.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure he's looking over the fields of Pickett's charge as well. Maybe not what we're used to looking at it from the same perspective.
I would imagine that the battlefield seemed smaller then because you could see more of it from many vantage points that you cannot see now.
Yes. And I don't know how much time we're going to have, but I'm ready to, if you want, to convert you a little bit more to Edward Everett's skill.
I was just making a joke. I have nothing against Edward Everett.
As I was standing there this morning, looking, trying to see, this is pretty much how the trees would have been. But of course, there weren't nearly this many trees at the cemetery. And you can look out and you can see the mighty Alleghenies, a reference at the very beginning of Edward Everett's speech. Now, he too is interested in place, and he's setting the place for everyone. And it must have been a beautiful setting on that 52-degree sunny day. With the leaves kind of the color that we're seeing them now, kind of yellowish, but not nearly as many. But anyway, the point is Lincoln took a tour of the battlefield. And what did he do when he got back? He asked for another piece of foolscap and a pencil. On the Executive Mansion stationery, he crosses out just the last couple of words that he had written there.
Which were what, do you remember?
Stand here instead of dedicated here.
Okay.
Let me see. I can look. What I should just show everybody. What's given me some depth in this is a book written by Martin P. Johnson called "Writing the Gettysburg Address." It was a Christmas present from my lovely daughter, and reading it has helped me understand a lot of things.
Okay.
So
I'll have to check that out.
It is rather for us, the living, to stand here. And he crossed out to stand here and puts, and it's grammatically incorrect, we here be in his handwriting, in a pencil. Everything else was written in ink, but this is in pencil. But what else did he do on that page? He underlined one of the words he had written in pen in the Executive Mansion. Did. Did you hear me emphasize that? What they did.
That's one here. That's the fifth word that I wrote down.
Good. And that made a difference to him too.
Yeah.
It didn't make a difference to him until he was here.
Yes.
And with a pencil, the same instrument he was using to write the last few sentences that he changed completely after the tour. And we don't know what he would have said. But those last few sentences, the part that begins, it is for us, the living, rather, to be what? Here. 8 times he uses the word here. There's a sense of place that this man has come to understand because he went on a tour of Gettysburg and he felt this place. So, are there other words I was emphasizing?
Yeah, I mean, so a lot. And okay, I say, here's the first one. We was the second one. Have. I was just trying to find where that would be. I mean, it's early on. It's only the third word. It's not. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field, the final rest place, blah, 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 blah. As a large sense, we cannot as a brave man living in who struggled. Have consecrated, I think you said.
Oh, yeah.
Have consecrated it far above our poor power to add or detract. And, it's so interesting because, and I think we talked about this last time we talked about the Gettysburg Address. For me, it was 5th grade. We had to memorize it and recite it, right? And every student used the same cadence. 87 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation conceived. And, there was no emphasis on any words. It was like reciting a prayer in church, just very blah. And it wasn't until the movie that runs in the visitor center came out when they opened the new visitor center, and Sam Waterston puts the emphasis on people. Of the people, by the people.
Yeah, you do that
people,
well, yeah.
Right? Well, he does it well,
and Waterston does it well. Have you ever heard his Cooper Union speech?
Waterston?
Yeah.
No, I never heard him do that.
So I think it was 2005.
Okay.
You can look it up on YouTube. Put Waterston Cooper Union speech. And it's like an hour and a half, hour and 40 minutes, something like that. But this is like when I was speaking at a conference about the Gettysburg Address in Wisconsin last year. I was there with all sorts of other people. And the question was, what was Lincoln's greatest speech? And of course, you know what my answer is, right? Others said the second inaugural. Others said the first inaugural. And I'm going, yeah, I can see that. I can make that case. And then one person was just absolutely adamant that it was the Cooper Union speech. And when I heard Sam Waterston do the Cooper Union speech, he's a good actor. And I think my impression of what Lincoln sounded like is just totally shaped by Waterston.
Yes.
Right? I mean, I don't know if I can
more than Daniel Day-Lewis, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Maybe that's because I keep hearing his voice at the cyclorama, or not the cyclorama, but at the movie.
But also in Ken Burns' The Civil War. He did Lincoln
and that's why he became the voice of Lincoln to generation.
Right.
But no, look up, your listeners too, treat yourself and see a great actor acting out what might be Lincoln's greatest speech.
I'll have to look that up. Cooper Union speech.
Yeah,
Sam Waterston.
It's really cool. It'd be great to get Sam Waterston. Is he still alive? Get him here.
Yeah, no, yeah. I would love to talk to him. So okay,
I wanted to real quick circle on those two words of have and did.
Yeah,
and how similar they are, and those are, they have consecrated it. That's
right.
That's a statement of fact. What they did here.
Yes.
That, they're very simple words, 4 letters and 3 words, but they are statements of fact.
You can't argue with what they did. You could quibble over why they did what they did, but what they did is irrefutable. Absolutely. They fought and died here. They struggled here. Absolutely. That's it.
Yep.
Yeah. And my emphasis in those words, the way I try to emphasize them, is to get people to see Lincoln is trying to belittle what we say here.
Yeah.
And
as he's saying something.
Yeah, as he's saying something very noteworthy, right? And I think he knew he was saying something noteworthy too. But still, he wants the emphasis to be on them. We cannot consecrate. We cannot dedicate. We cannot hallow this ground.
It's humbling. He's trying to humble all of us as he has humbled himself by this place.
And what does he call this place? Hallowed.
Hallowed, yeah.
Again, that whole religious aspect of this. And if you want, we can go there too. I've got even more ways to think about that.
But it also ties into his use of the word nations, right?
Oh, yeah.
What gives a nation more power or righteousness? Your words or what someone did in sacrifice?
Deeds,
and it's clearly what they did in sacrifice there.
Yes.
Right. The mystic cords that bound us together that he talked about in his first inaugural, if you will. Yeah.
So did you also emphasized the living? I don't know if you meant to do that either. But I had a thought as to why
now,
you did.
What part of the speech are we in now? We are in the part that he wrote after visiting the battlefield.
Oh.
He was impacted by the battlefield. And he had talked to people while writing it and just after he thought he was basically done but had a little more to tidy up, that he had gotten the past and the present 7 years ago. Now we are engaged in a great civil war. We have come to dedicate a portion of its present. But he wasn't sure how to tie in the future. And that would be us and his audience, the living, rather.
Yeah. Okay.
It is for us, the living, rather. He had started with saying, what did I say? It is rather for us, the living, to stand here. And Martin in this book is thinking through why that change might have been there. And to stand is a more passive thing. Mm-hmm. To stand doesn't necessarily have to be a positive thing. I mean, you could stand for something, right? That's positive.
You can just stand idly by.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so he wanted more action. He wanted more resolve. I mean, just listen to that part that he wrote after the tour. I'll come back to it. Listen to how forceful it is. It's almost like I went on a civil rights tour this spring, all sorts of civil rights sites, and we worshiped in Martin Luther King Jr.'s church, which Abernathy now is the pastor of. He wasn't there that day, though. But it's so different than my white Presbyterian Christian culture, okay?
Yeah, it's fun.
It's like, preach it, brother.
Yeah.
And then he preaches it harder. Then preach it again, brother. It's like Lincoln is hitting us and hitting us and hitting us with greater intensity. So let me get here. I got to take my glasses off. It is for us, the living, rather, to be dedicated here to the unfinished work. And that's another thing trying to emphasize, that this work is not done. And that is why this speech lives in history and challenges every generation, because the work is always unfinished, right? It is, it is for us, the living, rather, to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they who fought here, again, he's referring to them, which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. Well, I didn't say that hard enough. I'm going to say it again. It's rather for us to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us.
Yeah.
I think now the emphasis is future is us, and that's why I emphasize the word.
Us was one of the other ones.
And again, he's honoring them. The great task remaining for that from these honored dead, we take it. And that's right. I was emphasizing we, because he's talking to us now. Matt, he's talking to Mike, he's talking to you, he's talking to me, he's talking to our listeners over 162 years later.
Yeah.
Because another word that he didn't often use until this speech, nation. And what's the Civil War? It's the rebirth of a nation. Not a union anymore,
right?
Which is what he's been using most of his presidency. In this speech, there's some radical departures from things he's done in the past. He uses the word nation 5 times in this speech.
And to make this point, or that you're making this point, obviously there is a huge difference between a union and a nation.
Yes.
Okay, a union it doesn't necessarily have, let's say, I don't know what, an identity. right?
Correct.
A nation does.
Correct.
A shared culture, a shared identity.
Correct.
Right? A union is a bunch of people who decide, yeah, let's work together as long as we get along.
Yeah.
As long as we agree.
Or go ahead, Mike.
Yeah,
I was
Mikey.
going to say, tie that into the very beginning of his speech. Fourscore, he's starting with the revolution.
Mm-hmm.
And to be fair, where the country is now at this point has never been a nation. It was a group of states that were compromised together.
Yeah.
And eventually that was only going to hold so long because, elephant in the room, half of the country wanted to continue a practice that was abhorrent.
Right.
So
owning people.
now was the chance to create an actual nation for the first time.
Right. Well, and yeah, it's almost like the founders intended a nation to be created, and it is our job to finally make it that nation they wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think is the struggle of Americans in every generation.
Right. I think you're right about that. Golden apples in silver pitchers. Can I go back just for a minute and explain that from
for people that didn't listen to the last one that we did,
Okay.
tell us about that, because people are probably like, what the hell is he talking about?
Yeah. So Alexander Stephens, Lincoln's friend, is not the vice president of the Confederacy when he writes a letter to Lincoln on December 30th, 1860. Lincoln's been elected but not inaugurated, and Stephens was not for secession. He's trying to keep Georgia still in the Union. He writes Lincoln a letter saying basically, we must work together to save our common Union, not nation. Oh, maybe he did say country. I'll double check. But the point I'm trying to make here is he says to Lincoln in this letter, fitting words from you now would be like golden apples in a silver pitcher. That's a quote from Proverbs 25, where wise words are precious, golden apples in something that's precious, silver pitchers. Lincoln thinks about this. He never writes back to Stephens. They were exchanging.
Hold on.
Yep.
Pitchers. You're saying Pitch, not pictures?
That's the thing. If you look up that verse, and if you look up images of that verse, a lot of people do have it as a picture, like Pitch.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Not as like a Los Angeles Dodger picture. But anyway, we know that the image it gave Lincoln because he writes a speech fragment.
Bob is now reaching for a piece of paper.
Sorry about that.
So I'm just filling the dead air for
So
you.
I'm going to quote Lincoln now. This is written in January, perhaps as late as February of 1861. He's still not president, but he has just gotten this letter from Stephens that he has not replied to. Earlier in December, Lincoln and Stephens had indicated to each other in exchange that they were still friends, even though they had this between them. Mm-hmm. And the this between them, I'll come back to in a minute. Everyone knows about it. It's what Stephens says in his famous cornerstone speech. Okay. And that's at an ideological level what the war was all about. The difference in the foundation, the aspirational foundation of our two countries. So Lincoln is going to, he did this often, he will get an idea for a speech. I do this, even this morning. It's something about coming on your podcast that I'm thinking about, kind of like in a devotional sense about what the Gettysburg Address was, but also in my devotional sense talking to God. But this is what he writes. Without the Constitution and the Union, we could not have attained the result. But even these are not the primary cause of our great prosperity. That's the result. There is something back of these, the Constitution and the Union, something more important. Okay, there is something back of these entwining itself more closely about the human heart. That something is the principle of, quote, liberty to all, end quote. The principle that clears the path for all, gives hope to all, and by consequence, enterprise and industry to all. The expression of that principle in our Declaration of Independence was most happy and fortunate. Pause. Why fortunate? Because a slave owner wrote it. Thomas Jefferson.
Yeah.
by the way, you want to go off a rabbit hole, ask me about the article I read last week in Washington Post about the panel in the Jefferson Memorial that makes Jefferson out to be an abolitionist. It's cut and pasted from 5 different sources put next to each other so that no one knows they're not a continuous document.
So these are 5 Jefferson quotes from different things taken out of context.
It's one of the panels of Jefferson's writings in the Jefferson Memorial. It was put up in the 1940s. And anyway.
Who put it up?
A great grandson was the one who was pushing for this. It was a Senate committee that had to decide, or at least the committee was made up of a lot of senators. And it's an interesting story, too, of why they decided this. But you read that and you think, oh, he was an abolitionist. No, he owned 603 enslaved people himself. Right. Okay. Right. But he did express that beautiful thought, which is the heart and soul of America. The 5 words that made America great, that will continue to make America great as long as we aspire to them. And this is what I emphasized. All men are created equal. Because in the Cornerstone speech, Alexander Stephens will say, any government based on that idea is based on sand. And when the storm rises, that house will fall. Our government, the Confederate States Constitution, is based, and I'm kind of paraphrasing, but using a lot of his words, and I think I can quote him now, based on the idea that, or the truth, that the Negro is inferior to the white man, and that slavery subordination is his natural condition. So those are the 2 foundations of the 2 countries, at least according to Abraham Lincoln. Now, Lincoln will be castigated by some in the press because he had the gall to refer to the Declaration of Independence as the founding document of America and not the Constitution. So I want to come back to that.
Okay, too. Interesting.
So the expression of that principle in our Declaration of Independence was most happy and fortunate. The assertion of that principle at that time was the word, quote, and he's quoting the Proverbs now that Stephens had used in the letter. That principle, the assertion of that principle at that time was the word, quote, fitly spoken, unquote, which has proved an, quote, apple of gold, end quote, to us. The Union and the Constitution are the picture, Picture, of silver subsequently framed around it. The picture was made not to conceal or destroy the apple, but to adorn and preserve it. The picture was made for the apple, not the apple for the picture. So let us act that neither picture or apple shall ever be blurred or bruised or broken. This speech was never given. It was a speech fragment. That's what it's considered by the collected works of Abraham Lincoln. So it gives us a view into his hierarchy of important documents and core beliefs of what America is. The Declaration of Independence, especially those words, all men are created equal. And if I could, I'm going to quote a little bit more than he did in a speech. We hold these truths, this is the Declaration of Independence, 77 years before the speech. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable, interesting choice of words. Because we're struggling today with
aliens.
Do aliens have these rights? They're not citizens.
Oh, I thought you meant outer space. Yes.
No, I'm talking about illegal aliens.
Right.
It would seem that the Declaration of Independence, and this is Bob's political view coming in, so edit it out, Matt. I know we don't agree about a lot.
No, that's fine. It's fine. You agree more than you think.
We hold, we do.
No, but
we do.
But you're saying, go ahead.
That makes me happy.
Yeah.
Because we get along. We're, I think, good friends.
Yeah.
We don't see each other enough.
No, we don't.
We're good friends. And I know that we disagree about some things.
Minor details.
I've got hope for America because
of me. Me too.
Can I drop my mic? Was that a mic drop moment? I love you, man. You make me laugh, man. I need to laugh more often. That's why I should come on this podcast more often.
Yeah.
Oh, do you need a co-host? Maybe I'll come back.
You want to come back? That'd be great.
Yeah, I've thought about that, actually.
You should.
Yeah. Anyway.
The schedule now is grueling, though.
Yeah.
It's not like the old days. You had you got spoiled back then. That was the cushy days.
So maybe be a part-time co-host.
Yeah.
The schedule at my church too, as the leader there, is burdensome, but a good burden. Anyway, endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, and that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. Mm-hmm. Slavery is the opposite of that.
Correct.
It's not the consent of the governed.
Right.
Okay, and this is something that Lincoln was. He kind of retreated from politics for a while, but the Kansas-Nebraska Act brings him out again, and he has more religious fervor. We might want to talk about the impact of religion possibly on this speech as well.
What was his religion? Did he have a religion?
He attended a Presbyterian church.
Okay.
Mary was a professing Christian who was a member of the church. Lincoln never did. Okay. I'm saying this because I'm an elder in a Presbyterian church, and I was thinking about this just last night. What was his religious faith? There's so many things I want to talk about.
I know. Well, I mean, briefly.
If I were interviewing him for membership, which is something that we need to do as elders, I don't think I would necessarily say he should be admitted as a member. He's a God-fearing person. He believes in God. He believes in the providence of God. But to take that step to say that I need Jesus, his sacrifice on the cross to cover my sin, we don't have any evidence that he said anything like that.
So he's probably more like me, where he comes out of the Christian faith, but his views on God have become more it's enough for me to know that there is one and to respect him, or whatever you want to say, and have faith, but the trappings of a religion or a church are not something that speak to me. You know, and not turning this into a show about religion, but like from my perspective, raised Catholic, that'll turn you off to anything, right? and so, but I didn't come to that realization until I went back after years of absence to a Catholic funeral mass for somebody that it wasn't a relative, but it was a friend's grandfather who I was, close with. I was close to the family, and I really liked the guy. He fought in Patton's army. We always talked about that stuff, and I couldn't connect with the sorrow of the moment because of all of the sit, stand, kneel, spin around, high five the guy next to you. Here's what I say. What do you say in response? It takes you away from, I think, God, all of that stuff.
Yeah, right.
That is something, and this is going to offend people, and I'm sorry, but to me, when you need ritual, it's because you can't connect on your own. And so it's really a pacifier more than anything. I want to connect with God. I find I can do that outside of a church. In fact, I do it here
more
on the battlefield more than any place ever.
You're very much like my wife.
There you go.
She's got much of the same.
Yeah. So and also Abraham Lincoln. Don't forget that. I'm very much like Abraham Lincoln.
Hey, buddy. What's got you so down?
Hey, Court. I'm looking for a gift, but I just don't know what to get my Gettysburg friends and family.
It sounds like we need to have a talk. Come on. You love this place, don't you?
You bet I do. It's my favorite place in the world.
Well, you see, at Addressing Gettysburg, it's our mission to keep these stories alive.
How do we do that?
I'm glad you asked, Sport. You see, Gettysburg is the gateway to the most brutal and crucial time in American history, so we interview experts, and our listeners learn with us.
That sounds amazing.
It is! Mike, are you f***ing serious?
What? It's for the commercial. What benefits do patrons get?
You mean besides up to 4 premium episodes per month and Matt being the bee's knees as host? How about early access to special episodes, behind-the-scenes insights, and discounts for ticketed events?
Whoa! None of the other history channels I follow do that for their listeners.
That's because Addressing Gettysburg doesn't take its listeners for granted and really cares about us learning American history.
You know, I should gift my Getty's Nerd friends and family an Addressing Gettysburg Patreon membership.
You see, the answer was right under your nose the entire time.
Make Addressing Gettysburg's Patreon a gift for the Getty's Nerd in your family this holiday season. Addressing Gettysburg wants you to learn about the Civil War with us, and we need your support. We'll run this ad until it gets annoying, and then we'll run it until you become a patron at patreon.com/addressinggettysburg or by scanning the QR code on your screen. Happy holidays.
The hell are we staring at?
No idea.
I'm not sure what to do with this. In fact, a guy you might know, Robert Lustria, who took the guide exam, is wanting to become a guide.
I know that name. Yeah. I don't know if I ever met him, but I know the name.
Okay. Well, I could introduce you
Meet
to
a
him.
lot of
He's actually sitting in on my class at Messiah University in the Civil War. So he showed me a devotional, like kind of like a Civil War devotional. He's a Christian like I am. I mean, he's not a Presbyterian. He's a Lutheran, but that's okay. In any event, he showed me something just last week and asked me what I thought about that, because we were talking at breakfast once about the same thing. What was Lincoln's faith? And he showed me this, and I read it, and I said, there's a lot of people after his death who wanted to, say what they knew, and I knew Lincoln, before he died. Although I find out when I was rereading this last night that perhaps this was not before he died. Let me just quote. This is, again, the book, Writing the Gettysburg Address. I'm on page 226 at the top, going to the next page. The significance of the words under God, and we weren't going to talk about that too, but now.
Whatever.
The significance of the words under God, and Lincoln, that's not in the copy that he held in his hand. Okay, that was spontaneous on his part. It wasn't on the copy of Foolscap either. He was inspired by the place, the event, the emotion of everything there. Remember, he's wiping tears away.
Yeah.
The significance of the words under God for Lincoln's personal beliefs will probably always inspire debate. Mary Todd Lincoln recalled in 1866 that it was after Willie's death, that was February of 62, so a little more than a year before the speech, well, a year and a half. It was after Willie's death that her husband, quote, first thought about religion, and that he, quote, felt religious more than ever about the time he went to Gettysburg. But she was quick to add that, quote, he was not a technical Christian. And that's what I'm saying. I'm not sure I would admit him into membership of my church as an elder of a Presbyterian church, okay? PCA church for people who care. But she was quick to add he was not a technical Christian. Willie's death and Gettysburg were also linked in a story that appeared in a newspaper a year after the ceremony, which stated that not long before, Lincoln had told a clergyman, quote, when I left, and this is quoting Lincoln, okay, Lincoln's the I here, but I'm not sure I buy this. When I left home to take this chair of state, I requested my countrymen to pray for me. I was not then a Christian. When my son died, the severest trial of my life, I was not a Christian. But when I went to Gettysburg and looked upon the graves of our dead heroes who had fallen in defense of their country, I then and there consecrated myself to Christ. I do love Jesus.
Lincoln wrote that.
This is a clergyman who says Lincoln told him this.
Okay.
So take it with a grain of salt.
Well, he's a clergyman. He can't lie.
Can presidents of the United States lie?
Yeah, they're not connected to God.
Okay. So, and I'm not going to say what Martin is saying about this, okay? Because there's reason to not believe this. Okay, I'll just continue. The language is clearly not Lincoln's, and the final assertion is so uncharacteristic as to be more than doubtful. And I would add, Lincoln lived another year and 4 months or so, 5 months after the speech. So if he had become a Christian, I think there's opportunity for him to actually say something like that.
Yeah, nick of time too.
At least a Christian that would, satisfy a person like me who's got to admit people into membership.
Yeah,
mentioning Jesus Christ, for example. The language is clear, but it may be that the anecdote accurately reflects some of the reverential and patriotic sensibility on the platform at Gettysburg that led Lincoln to add "under God" to his speech. Okay, so there's that.
So we had nation new birth. You emphasized new birth.
Yeah, and that is something almost out of nowhere that apparently doesn't appear on the White House copy or the Executive Mansion copy piece of paper. Maybe it was a result of the tour or the trip he took around the battlefield that day. But there is clearly a progression in the speech, an organization in the speech of a lifetime. I think we mentioned last time, just by the inclusion of the word score in fourscore instead of saying 87 years ago. He is calling to mind Psalm 90:10, I believe it is, where a man's years are 70. So 7, 10. That's calling into the audience, because it was an era when everyone knew the King James Version of the Bible, a lifetime. And he's bringing together this lifetime of a nation, words such as conceived in liberty. So a baby's life begins at conception or not, but that's a human life, at least potential of being started. Dedicated, like we have, Catholics would have baptism, in my church too, it's a baptism, but other churches will have dedication ceremonies for a young baby. Conceived in liberty, dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. There's that quote of the heart and soul of America, those 5 words. So there's birth of a nation. Now it's being tested. Testing whether that nation or any nation so conceived and so dedicated can long endure. Can it long endure?
Yeah, and that's a part that we always kind of brush past. Like, even when we've done these episodes before analyzing it, I don't think anybody has really hovered over that section.
Well, we are now.
Well, let's do that.
I was trying to emphasize that.
Yeah.
When I was emphasizing the thing, can long endure.
Right. But that's a scary question to be asking at that point, right? In order to hear your president asking. Like, this is testing. Yeah. Like, can we last the way we're supposed to be?
And this is where his friend
or set up
Stevens's relationship and him first began to make me think deeper about the meaning of the speech, because his friend Alexander Stevens put it right out there. Your government will fall. It's a sandy foundation.
Yeah.
Our government, the cornerstone is that blacks are inferior than whites, and they're supposed to be slaves. That's the foundation of the two governments. So now there's a civil war testing which of those nations can long endure. And hallelujah, I'm a Yankee. The one that was based on the idea all men are created equal is the one that has, so far, endured.
Yeah.
You just said that's a scary question.
Yeah.
It must have been a scary question for the people in the audience.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about today?
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, we've got more time under our belts as the United States of America, so it's even scary. I mean, like the country's completely different. Forget about socially, civil rights wise. I mean, just economically, the way everything works, it's completely different than back then. People have a lot more to lose now.
You said the country just now.
Yes.
You didn't say the nation has.
Well, I said the country because we're both wearing plaid.
I love you, man. You make me laugh. Anyway.
No, you're right. I did. Yeah.
But Lincoln used the word nation 5 times.
Yeah.
He's trying to build something, because we got on this trend, I think, because you were asking about the new birth of freedom at the end. There is the life of a nation at stake. A conception, a birth, now being tested to see which one will survive. And it is up to us, the living. The great task remaining before us, that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom. So it's the lifetime of a nation. And is this going to be the end? Is our nation going to die here in the American Civil War over this issue of slavery? The House divided speech, going back to that. He doesn't say that the nation or the country won't exist, but it will either be all slave or all free.
Right.
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 And we know where Lincoln wants it to be.
Yeah.
A new birth of
freedom.
So there's this concept like you would have in a Christian's life of new birth coming from the death of Jesus on the cross gives me a new birth as an individual Christian. A nation who has seen its brave men spill their blood on this hallowed ground are giving a new birth for a new opportunity. So the government shutdown.
Oh, here goes Bob with his politics again.
No. I hope not. Maybe.
Yeah.
Chris Gwynn, if you're listening. I offered to talk about this to Chris, and it was...
What, the shutdown?
No, about the speech.
Oh, okay.
And I just offered way too late last year.
For the winter lectures.
Yeah, for the winter lectures, correct. So this year, in the spring, because when he said, it's too late. He said, but ask me for next year. So this year in the spring, I asked him, and I still haven't heard, and I probably won't hear because the government shutdown. That's why I said government shutdown.
It's probably putting a damper on a lot of the planning for the winter lectures.
Right. But the timing would be better for this year because this year is the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, which was the golden apple. Mm-hmm. And the Constitution was the silver pitcher frame. I was going to entitle my talk, Golden Apples in Silver Pitchers, plural. The 2 golden apples, still at the heart and soul of America, and hopefully always will be, all men are created equal, consent of the governed. The silver pitcher frame, the Constitution. Many historians talk about 2 births of America, 2 revolutions. The first revolution being the one in the 1770s and 80s, and the moral principle of it was those words, all men are created equal, consent of the governed. But the legal codification of it, and thank you, David French, the legal codification of it was the Constitution of the United States. Mm-hmm. Now, we get a hint of the morality of the Constitution with these words. We, the people of the United States. Oh, and how fortunate, I would point out, that those words were there instead of we, the states. Mm-hmm. We, the people, are what give the authority to this new government that's going to be formed. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility. Ensure domestic tranquility. They didn't have it in the 1860s. Provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. Do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. And this is a legal contract. This is a document. It's not a speech, okay?
The word nation or country is not in there.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Union.
And that's it's more of a union, to form a more perfect union. But Lincoln is taking us to something else, some something else that we as a people can unite behind to become a nation. Because we don't have race. We don't even have language now to unite behind. As we get more and more diverse, we don't have religion to unite behind like a lot of nations, or a lot of countries do. But what we have is this belief that all men are created equal.
So you mentioned that we don't have all those things that they had back then to unite people. And I don't know if you've heard, see, it's funny, the different generations, we have different sources of finding out what's going on in the world, right? And so I'll say something very matter of fact to somebody maybe like your age or older, and they're like, what the hell are you talking about? And it's because Fox News or MSNBC or the Washington Post or the New York Times or the Wall Street Journal didn't tell them.
Yeah, right.
And so they don't know. But meanwhile, younger people, we kind of shun all that stuff, and we find our news from various sources on the internet. And it's not necessarily what would be considered a news agency, but it's more of a person on the ground saying, look, here's what's happening, right? With no editing or very little editing or something.
Yeah, right.
And, or commentary, no commentary or whatever. So one of the things that I remember a couple of years ago, Cindy said to me, she goes, do you think about the Roman Empire? She showed me this video of like this woman like saying, you know, guys or like ladies, ask your boyfriend or husband if he thinks about the Roman Empire, and you are going to crack up at their answer. Right. And so, I'm like, so she shows it to me and I go, oh yeah, I think about it all the time. And she's like, you do? And I go, yeah. And she's like, why? And I'm like, because I think we're about to fall like the Roman Empire did.
Okay.
And she's like, well, why are guys thinking about that? And I go, because we're the ones who are going to have to pick up the pieces and try to fix it. And I said, so it's going to fall on our shoulders. And so that's of course why we're thinking of it. And I wonder if Stevens's, because the Roman Empire obviously was something these people were aware of, right? And as I understand it, I'm certainly no ancient historian by any stretch of the imagination, but my simple understanding of it is that the Roman Empire fell for many reasons, one of which was non-Romans were allowed to, I don't know, have power in there or something, you know, run for office and things and dilute the Romanness of Rome, right? And it also stretched far beyond its limits, many other things that happened. Is Stevens kind of saying that by saying that the American ideal, the United States' ideal, is built on sand because it will inevitably lead to what killed the Roman Empire?
I doubt it.
Okay, so they're not like comparing themselves to the ancients in any way.
That's anachronistic.
Hold on, I have to Google what that means.
Oh,
I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
If Lincoln would have said, hold it, I've got to Google what that means, that would have been anachronistic. Like if you have a document that purports to be from 1863,
right, and
Lincoln says, I Googled this and that's what this word means, right? That's anachronistic.
Right.
Any event, Stevens was influenced by the what was influencing a lot of people, social Darwinianism, Charles Darwin, the origin of species, evolution, has, you know, scientific applications, but people also saw in it racial and social applications. The absolute worst epitome of that would be Hitler, Himmler, okay, the master race. But that is definitely in the thinking of Alexander Stevens, that it's, and Stevens would call himself a Christian too, I'm sure, that God created us. He created monkeys to be monkeys, dogs to be dogs, people to be people, white people to be here, black people to be here. And that's as obvious as anything, because look what their civilization was like in Africa. Okay.
This is Stevens, not Bob talking, by the way.
No, this is not Bob talking, right. And he didn't, and I just put words in his mouth too,
right.
Okay. But I'm not so sure that Lincoln, Lincoln was a product of his day He was not a Thaddeus Stevens. Thaddeus Stevens was 100 years before his time in believing that blacks should have equal rights. Lincoln even comes into the war not as an abolitionist. Now, he's got political things. He doesn't like slavery. He doesn't like slavery because it's not the consent of the governed. And the Declaration of Independence is his guiding principle. When he was on his way to the inauguration, he was on Washington's birthday, I believe it was, he was in Philadelphia getting a tour of the Independence Hall, and he made a quick little speech and said something to the effect of, there's not a political thought I've had that didn't stem from the Declaration of Independence. So from his own words, that's the golden apple is that. But Lincoln, where were we going with that? My computer just went up. So it distracted me. I don't have ADHD. Ask my wife.
Well, we were talking about. I kind of went on an aside there. I took you off the path, I think, with my question about Stevens and the Roman Empire and all that stuff. Like, what was he talking about there?
But I think I made the point.
Yeah,
the theory that certain races are superior than others.
Is it also that when you see like it?
Oh, I was going to say you can call Lincoln a racist. I mean, there are people who have done that.
Sure.
If you judge him by today's standards, which is totally unfair.
I agree.
You can make quotes of Lincoln, make him sound, especially when he was campaigning for the Senate in 1858 in Southern Illinois.
Yeah.
Where there was, Northern Illinois is a different animal. So yes, he did not have as lofty a view as I might have or you might have about the races being equal.
Mm-hmm.
But he certainly thought that slavery was wrong because they were human beings.
Which is still pretty radical for that time.
Yeah. He wasn't a radical Republican.
No.
He wasn't an abolitionist. But
yeah, I mean, like the abolitionist movement was growing for sure. And people were maybe not becoming abolitionist activist types, but they were at least maybe going, yeah, you know what, maybe we don't really need this, so people were starting to change their minds, but like nothing happens overnight.
Exactly.
And for a guy like Lincoln with the influence that he has to just come to the side of this is wrong, that's good. That's good enough. And
he changed. I mean, he came to that, but even as he was president for 4 years, he changed. I mean, he went from colonizing, we should free the slaves, and then colonize them, we shouldn't be living with them, to Tuesday. He's killed on Friday. Lee surrendered on Sunday, April 9th. The 11th is a Tuesday, right then? Yeah.
That would be, yes. Just like this week we're in right now.
Oh, how about
Sunday
that?
Was the 9th, and tomorrow's 11th.
But that's April. This is November.
Well,
but still, thank you for that.
Yeah.
Okay. So Tuesday, there's kind of an impromptu, kind of a serenade thing. Everyone's happy because Lee surrendered. I mean, basically the war is over, right? And back then, groups of people would come and sing and get you to come out and make a speech. And I think we've talked before, and I was just behind the scenes, but when you had Doug Dowds and Fran Fryak, and I work with him. Sorry, Fran. I hope you're not listening. Fran, I should just leave it at that. And Jared Peterman. I hope I got his name
Peterman.
Right. Sorry, Jared. Apologies. And I love his book, by the way.
Yeah.
I love his book. Anyway, when they were on, they were talking about the July 7th serenade, where Lincoln is also beginning to talk about the Declaration of Independence, those words, all men are created equal, something he hadn't talked about much before. He's doing that more now. But he went from a person who was wanting, colonize, and we'd call him a racist, to the week he dies, he doesn't know he's going to die, he makes a speech in answer to the serenade where he even suggests that black men should be citizens.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them be given the right to vote. So he has come a long way closer to abolitionist views or Thaddeus Stevens views than he was before. And you know who's in the audience?
John Wilkes Booth.
Yeah.
And he's like, that's it?
That's the last speech he'll ever make.
That's right. We are done, Mr. Lincoln.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Should have kept his mouth shut.
Right.
Could have actually done that.
By the way,
lived.
You might ask, if you're interested, what else was Lincoln thinking about and writing about when he wrote the Gettysburg Address and when he came here? But
so one thing I wanted to do before we were talking about nation and union and country, and you pointed out that I said country, and I was like, well, what the hell is the definition of nation versus country? Because we often use them interchangeably, right? Yeah. Like I did. And so
you looked it up?
I looked it up.
All right.
I looked on the Google machine, which is not anachronistic for me.
Hold it. I'm an old guy. You've made that crystal clear. What's Google? I'm just kidding.
It's the thing I looked this up on. I couldn't explain it to you if I tried. A nation is a group of people united by shared culture, language, or history. Its basis is cultural and social identity. So I kind of touched on identity before when I said that, and that was just intuitive. The sovereignty may or may not have its own government or sovereignty. So like we have like the Cherokee Nation within the United States, right? Okay. Example they give here is the Kurdish people who are spread across multiple countries but share a common identity, et cetera, et cetera. A country is a sovereign state or political territory with defined borders and its own government. The United States of America is a country. Political and geographic boundaries are its basis. Sovereignty, its self-governing political entity. An example, France is a sovereign state with its own government and borders. So the United States of America, even though in the founding documents it's referred to as a union, it's a country still. Right. Mm-hmm. But Lincoln, I think, is trying to affect social change by saying nation and giving this speech. And he's saying, these guys are dying for something. Not the country. That's the government. That's an on paper thing. But we're a nation. We're a people. And it's bigger than those of us who have been considered Americans so far. We need to make the tent a little larger because there are people here within this country who are not allowed to be part of the nation. And that is wrong. And that is what we need to correct moving forward.
Right.
And maybe this is the beginning of the change of his way of thinking that he gets to before he dies, where it's like, no, we can't send them to Liberia. Right. Like that would not be right. Mm-hmm. And was it Frederick Douglass who kind of gets in his ear and he's like, hey, man, we're fighting for you. Yeah, and then you're going to send us back when we're done? Right. Like what? No. Some of these guys that are fighting are actual freemen.
Yeah, he's no longer on that page.
Yes.
In fact, what he is writing at the same time, he started before and he finished after, although he got pretty sick here. He was getting probably smallpox. And he was beginning to get sick as he was getting on the train, and he went back to Washington, and he was bedridden for about 10 days. So it
was scarlet fever. Is that what it was?
Smallpox is what I think Johnson says here. But
Smallpox.
Variola, I think, is where I've read before too, which is kind of like a milder version of it.
I thought that was a body part.
I don't know.
Michael, do you know?
I have no idea, man. You're welcome.
I'm glad to hear Michael's still awake.
He's awake.
Good.
He's back there. Look up areola and see what that is.
V.
Oh, variola. Oh,
variola.
Of course. Oh my God, he said variole, not areola.
Ariel.
You got his mind on nipples.
You're going to get the little.
Mike, look up.
Oh my!
I
love
shit.
it.
I'm
We're
going
so
deaf.
serious, and then we go laugh. I love it.
I swear to God, I got to get my hearing checked. I swear you said areola. I'm sorry, ladies
I'll
and
just
gentlemen.
say this. I don't need to go there
Forgive
any further.
me.
But he is writing and will give to Congress what we would call the State of the Union address in early December. Back then, it was a written report that would be read in Congress, not spoken by the president. And this was the famous one, 1863 December, where he announces what the South is going to look like after the war, the famous Reconstruction Plan.
I've never heard this. So what does he say?
He is holding out in his plan a place for blacks to be citizens, and maybe even some of them to be able to vote if they served in the military. We owe this to them, kind of a thing. But part of the plan, I mean, the thing that might resonate with you because you might remember something in your high school history course, is he's presenting a plan to let the South up easy. Only 10% of the people in the southern state had to swear allegiance to the United States and the Union. And you have to you're not allowed to have slavery anymore. Okay, the 13th Amendment had not been written yet. In fact, do you know there was an original 13th Amendment that was just being circulated just before the war began? And what it said?
No.
It basically would allow slavery to never be changed.
Really?
As part of a compromise to, we'll prevent this war South. We'll put an amendment there and Lincoln wasn't for this, okay? But there were some serious people that were in favor of this proposed amendment. The 13th Amendment could have, though, if it would have gone differently, could have actually made slavery constitutional in the South. But if the compromise would have gone through, not in new territories.
So in other words, they could keep it where it exists, but not spread it.
Right. And this is what Lincoln was saying all along.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
He wasn't advocating a constitutional amendment.
I honestly don't think, well, I shouldn't say I honestly don't think, because I suspect that if you gave the Southern leaders who drummed up all the frenzy in the South to be for breaking apart from the Union, if you gave them some truth serum, it would really be because we don't really care about protecting slavery. We just didn't want to be part of the country anymore. We just didn't want to have to we just wanted to keep things the way they were. And yeah, slavery is a part of that, but that was the thing that we honed in on to drum up all the support. And we put all of it on Lincoln like he was going to be a threat to it. Meanwhile, he's saying, I don't really, no, I don't want to touch it where, just I don't want to spread, but then they just make like politicians always did and always will do. They lie about their opponent and they'll take something their opponent says and blow it up. And so I don't know, because it's such an odd thing to be willing to sacrifice your sons and your own lives for the right to own someone else. It's odd to me.
I think it's bigger than that, though.
Go ahead, Michael.
It's so much of their economy. And
I get that.
I think they're reading, when you say, well, that, Lincoln might have tolerated it, but the writing on the wall worldwide with the major powers, England and whatnot, was the abolishment of that. I think it was just a fight against the inevitable on their end.
I agree with you. I agree. But what other things would change about, it's definitely, I'm not explaining this well enough. I don't know. I just get a sense it just seems so dumb to me. I don't know. I'm going to go and die so that a man who is richer than I will ever be in my life can own another person, and I won't have to compete with him for a job if he's freed, that person, that slave. It's just dumb.
Yeah, I doubt if you could go back in time with your mic, this is anachronism, and invite soldiers who died for the Confederacy on this very ground.
Yeah.
Because we're behind Confederate lines. Maybe you could have invited them in.
Oh,
right?
yeah. Hey, come on in the studio, guys, while you're here.
Right. Ooh, wouldn't that be cool?
That would be cool.
Anyway, if you would ask them, is this why you're fighting? I don't think anyone would say that.
That's a great point.
But if you look at the Mississippi secession statement, it's the most accessible because it's just one page and it's kind of bullet pointed, but everything is slavery. You don't see,
right?
It's slavery, it's slavery, it's slavery. And each one of the secession statements did. Even the cornerstone speech of Alexander Stephens, which I was quoting before, the vast majority of that speech isn't about what is the cornerstone of your country. The belief that the black man is inferior to the white man, or the Negro, as he said, is inferior to the white man. So it's not something to fight and die for. And I want to give Southern soldiers some credit because I think Lincoln did.
Sure.
Lincoln, I think he includes them. This is speculation and it's not original to me. I think it's Gary Wills. But he kind of includes them in those who struggled here. Okay, it was like fellow Americans were struggling here over the meaning of this country and the meaning of this all. So they're fighting for a gazillion reasons, or at least 70,000 reasons maybe at this battle. A lot of it is just, y'all came down and invaded my country.
I do get that, but here's the thing. I'm going to read you an excerpt from their secession statement. And
from Mississippi's?
Yes.
Okay.
And you tell me, if you're a 20-year-old and you're a Mississippian, your state secedes, your family doesn't have money to own a slave, right? When your state secedes, they secede and they say this: our position is thoroughly identified with the institution of slavery, the greatest material interest of the world, and a blow at slavery is a blow at commerce and civilization. That blow has been long aimed at the institution and was at the point of reaching its consummation, et cetera, et cetera. So, I know I'm not growing up a Mississippian. Okay. I understand there's a lot of stuff that I'm being naive here. Okay. Mm-hmm. I would move. If Pennsylvania today decided that it was going to secede from the Union and, I don't know, let anybody from any country in the world in without any type of background check or anything like that, it's just wide open. Pennsylvania, it's for the world, right? I would move. Because that is dangerous, because you don't know who it's going to be, right? It is not something I agree with. I agree with security.
Would you give your life for that?
To move?
Well, you said you would move. I'm asking you, would you fight? Would you give your life? Would you lay your life down
against it?
Against it, yeah.
No, I would move.
And that's your point. Yeah, that's your point.
That's right. My point. And so I don't agree with owning someone or someone else being able to own someone. And so if my state secedes mainly and states that the main reason I'm seceding is for something that I find to be abhorrent, I'm leaving. And I'll go somewhere where the weather suits my clothes. Right. Right.
Right.
And then if I can't find that place, I don't know what the hell I'll do. But the last thing I'm doing is fighting against anything.
Right. And I'm going to, I think, add strength to that argument, because I think you're right. Like I said, if you interviewed these people, they wouldn't say that that's why they're fighting.
Right.
We have Jeremiah
But that's what they're signing up with when they do.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
You have Jeremiah Gage's words. I mean, he was here and he died here, and he had a chance to express to his mom in that letter. And boy, I hope I can pull it out here without doing the whole speech. But my greatest regret at dying is that she is not free. He's talking about his country.
Yeah.
Right? That she is not free. And that concept of fighting for the independence of your country, what he considered to be his country, is not, let me put it this way. His family owned slaves. They were not super rich. They only owned 13. But he could have said, my greatest regret is that I do not live to make sure my country can keep slavery. And so that's the point you're trying to make here. So here's a man, his dying thoughts. What is he dying for? He's saying so that his country could be free. His greatest regret is that she is not free. So anyway, I'm just admitting, I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah.
But what they're stating for the record is every one of the states is stating slavery.
Right. And I understand they are. I find it to be, I mean, I guess I'm naive, and I think, I don't
think it's naive, Matt.
What is it?
I just think
stupid.
No, you're not in that place. You know, we live in a time frame where we cannot possibly put ourselves into that mindset. It's impossible. And you say move, I don't know if it's just that easy.
No, it's not. Of course it isn't. Again,
that's so many close ties. And this is how those people have lived for generations and generations. That's not to excuse it.
And that's a great point, though, because as much as I've chosen to make Gettysburg area my home, I always felt more at home here, even when I didn't live here. It's still not my country, like a Mississippian would look at Mississippi as his country.
Right.
And it is a different mindset for sure. Like if New York State decided to invade us, I'd be like, all right, well, tell me when they get to Harrisburg and then I'll start thinking about where I'm going to go. I'm not going to fight to protect Pennsylvania from New York,
Yeah.
I don't understand that because the United States now is the whole country's your oyster, right? You want to go somewhere you don't like the winters anymore? I'm moving to Arizona.
Right.
I don't like scorpions anymore. Maybe I'll move to Colorado or whatever. Do they have scorpions in Colorado? I don't know.
Probably.
And it's that lack of national identity, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the Revolutionary War is not that long ago, and they were not colonials. They were Massachusetts men,
exactly
Pennsylvania men, Virginians.
Yeah.
And they might as well have been foreign to one another because even though they were all together on this continent, they were very different people.
Sure.
And these are just the grandsons of those kids.
Well, and that's what I was just going to say. They're only a couple generations away from the revolutionary thinking or way of thinking back then, the colonial, way of thinking. And that doesn't go away. I mean, you look like, my grandfather, our grandfathers fought in World War II, right?
Mine too.
Yeah,
My father.
Your father.
My father.
And you wish you were that young. And
Any chance, Mike? Matt, any chance?
Well, because I'm the oldest one amongst all the people on the show, so I'm always getting shit for being the old guy.
That's why you invite me on, huh?
So I'm finally younger.
Yeah, let's get that pincushion Bob in here again.
No, but so the World War II generation, they taught us, they taught us a bunch of things. But, the one thing I got from my grandfather was that, this is a great country and we've gone through a lot of hard times, but we always, at least up until World War II, we tried to do the right thing and we corrected the wrongs of the previous generation and this, that, and the other thing, right? And then his generation says, well, we're going to go and save the world from these wackadoodles, the Nazis, and these, I don't even know what you would call the Japanese and what they did to the Koreans and the Chinese and everybody. But and that's a whole different thing.
Yeah.
And but there's a growing portion of the population that hates the country and doesn't think we did anything good anymore. And my way of looking at things is the dying breed. Where I'm middle-aged. It's mostly middle-aged people that think there's anything good about us or older, and we're all getting old and dying off, and we're all not going to be here forever. And so the wave coming in is the opposite of what my grandfather taught me.
Yeah.
And so I forgot where I was going with that.
I got good news for you.
Where was I going? Okay. But my point is that the Civil War, so the Southern way of looking at things is, yes, I'm from Virginia and I'm part of the American Union, the United States of America, but I'm a Virginian. Virginia's my home. Virginia's my country, right?
Lee made that pretty clear.
Sure. But that holdover from the colonial way of thinking is still very much alive because these are the grandchildren of, or in Lee's case, the son of the revolutionary fighters and founders and all that stuff, right? Yeah. But there is a new way of thinking that has been growing over that same time that, we got to kind of get away from this old way. And things need to change. And that is leading towards what we now know of the United States, which is that we don't have slavery. People have civil rights, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
You were talking about the World War II generation. My dad, he was motivated in part by Lincoln's words here at Gettysburg. Mm-hmm. A recruiting poster that at the top said, "Remember December 7th." You can probably see it in your mind, right? Yeah. But at the bottom, it said that government of, by, for the people shall not perish from the earth.
A reminder.
Okay. And in 1942, my dad became a United States Marine to preserve that kind of country, that kind of nation. And there were two foundings of America. The first one, the Revolution with the Declaration of Independence as the moral compass, and the Constitution, the silver pitcher, as the codification legally of that moral compass. The Second American Revolution, as many historians talk about it, is what we're talking about. And Lincoln is inaugurating this in this speech, I believe, the Second American Revolution. The Golden Apple. My speech was going to be entitled Golden Apples and Silver Pitchers. The second one is the Gettysburg Address. And what's the silver pitcher frame? The constitutional amendments, 13, 14, and 15, ending slavery, giving citizenship to people that are born here. Obviously, the time would have been enslaved people. And then giving black men, at least, the right to vote. That's the codification of the new moral principle that all men are created equal. It's not a new principle, really. In fact, as I said a couple times, those are the 5 words that made America great. They made America greater as a result of the Union victory in the Civil War. But is it done? What did Martin Luther King Jr., where was he standing when he, in 1963, gave the I Have a Dream speech? Where was he standing?
Lincoln Memorial.
And what were the first words out of his mouth?
I have a dream.
No.
I don't remember what his speech starts with.
With these words, intentionally, 50 years ago. He's referring to 1863 in his August 28th, 1963 speech. What is he referring to in 1863? Well, pretty clearly the Emancipation Proclamation, but also the speech, the Gettysburg Address, because he will quote the same words Lincoln quoted, all men are created equal. And that is what gives me hope. I'm pushing back a little bit on some of what you were saying, and I get it.
Fine. I mean, I don't necessarily believe it. I'm just kind of...
Well, I get it. I mean, you can stream a movie right now. Go home and do it if you haven't, but don't. It's a stupid movie. Civil War.
Oh, I haven't watched that yet. The previews look dumb. I don't even understand how they get California and Texas allied with each other.
I know, and that was really stupid.
Yeah.
But maybe that was intentional, but... I saw that with the same guys I'm going, or at least one of the same guys I'm going to go to see Nuremberg tonight.
Okay.
So I actually paid money to go to the theater to see Civil War.
And I won't even watch it on my streaming service.
Right. That was a year ago. But there's people talking about, are we going to have another Civil War? We need another Civil War, that kind of stuff. And I'm here to give some hope. So I do this, whether it's speaking outside of Gettysburg, which isn't very often, or whether it's speaking at the cemetery, giving cemetery tours, or now doing this. I try to give this pitch to people. It's odd, Matt. In 2024 in the summer, this guy all decked out in MAGA stuff came up to me after one of my talks, convinced that I was MAGA. Based on what I was saying about how I love the Gettysburg Address and all men are created equal. It's amazing how people from one political perspective can hear Lincoln's words. And then just this past summer, someone who had a Kamala Harris shirt, same situation. Now, the one guy, he was insistent that he tell me who I was voting for. You know, the coming election.
So he thought you were MAGA because you quoted Lincoln?
Because
you found the beauty in American history?
Exactly. Yeah. Because I was so full of passion for this country and what makes us great, that all men are created equal.
Yeah.
And someone on the opposite end of the spectrum this summer had the same thing.
So what does that tell you?
What that tells me, and that's the hope I'm trying to give here, we have more in common.
That's right. And that is what is so heartbreaking about our current situation.
But that gives me hope, because guys from opposite end of the spectrum can hear the same talk and come away with, we agree with that. We agree with that. Those are the words that made America great. And as long as we, like Martin Luther King Jr. was doing 50 years ago, as long as we see those words as aspirational, because we'll never achieve it. I have a dream. as long as we have that aspiration and hold that near and dear to our hearts, that all men are created equal. In that speech fragment, Lincoln said it's entwines. There's something deeper in the human emotion that makes us think. I think I have kind of an answer for that. Every major religion has this idea, do unto others as you would have them do unto you.
Yeah.
It's something deeply ingrained in our soul.
It's golden.
It's a golden apple. And we have this silver pitcher frame to protect it.
Yeah. Which is the laws codifying the golden rule.
Right. And
right.
And that's why, again, we might disagree on how this manifests itself in our life, but that's why I will stand up against people that are trampling on the Constitution, because the Constitution protects the golden apple.
Well, and you know what's sad about the story you told about the Trump supporter and the Kamala Harris supporter. If both of them came up to you at the same time after the same tour to
say the same tour.
No. I'm saying if they did, if they had.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay. At the same time on the same tour, to say the same thing to you, thinking you were on their side, but witness the other one do it. Their brains would explode.
They probably would.
They wouldn't know what to do because, and this is the problem, is that the people we follow tell us that other person is evil,
exactly,
and doesn't want all men to be created equal.
Preach it, brother.
I'm preaching.
Yeah.
All right.
Say amen, Mike.
And
Amen, Mike.
Go back to sleep, Mike.
Wake up, Michael. And then. The sad thing is that we just see things a little differently. I think, first of all, I think people define equality differently. I think there is definitely a portion of the society that believes that equality means equal outcome. And the other side...
That's not what Lincoln thought. But
No. Yeah. I'm saying today.
Right.
The other side thinks equal opportunity. And you have to make your outcome equal or better than someone else's or less than someone else's, and that's based on what you put in and what you don't put in. And the other side would think, well, it has to be guaranteed by a third party that we employ called the federal government to make sure that everybody has equal outcome. So I think,
right.
But to me, that is what scares me about now, is because those are oil and water. The federal government can protect opportunity. It cannot, it certainly can make equal outcome, but then you have the Soviet Union, you have North Korea, everybody's miserable, and you don't want that. It can't happen, but there's enough people today that do want that. And that is what confuses me, is because you are right. The middle of the road people who sit on one side or the other,
that's what most of us are, Matt.
We are, and that's why we need to have that viable third party that forms in the center.
Yeah.
Because that'll be the largest party in the history of the goddamn country, because most of us are there. But anyway, I digress. What I'm trying to say is that if we could find the things that we agree on and build off of those, we won't need the parties anymore. Because we will realize that we are the nation that the country was built around. Mm-hmm. We are the nation that gives the country, i.e. the government, its power, and we can take it away if we could just become that nation again. Thank you, everybody. Good night.
Is that the mic drop moment?
There it is. So. Okay, yeah. That's what I think.
Are you finished recording?
No. That was a joke.
Okay.
I mean, I know that was a beautiful ending, but it's,
It was, man. Well, I mean, the tears. I'm like Lincoln. Oh.
Yeah. Mike's still asleep, though.
I want to just share something, and you can edit this out if you want. Again,
I don't have time for editing.
Okay. I'm quoting
too busy.
Martin Johnson's book, Writing the Gettysburg Address. I'm on page 196. He's talking about a Major Azor Nickerson from the 8th Ohio. Let me just read. My own emotions may perhaps be imagined, Major Anderson recalled 30 years later. Quote, when it is remembered that he was facing the spot say this, the major was there to hear the Gettysburg Address. Okay. And he was facing, remember where the 8th Ohio is. Okay. Pretty close to Cemetery Hill.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. For those of you who don't know, it's not too far from Cemetery Hill. Think of where General Pickett's Cafe is, or that area. Okay. Anyway, when it is remembered that he was facing the spot where only a short time before we had our death grapple with Pickett's men, and he stood almost immediately over the place, and he's talking about Lincoln stood almost immediately over the place where I had lain and seen my comrades torn in fragments by the enemy's cannon. End quote. Nickerson himself had been pierced through the arm and lung during the cannonade of July 3rd, although I'm wondering if that was really the cannonade, given where the 8th Ohio was. Maybe that was later in a fight. But anyway, and had been left for dead. But he rose from the battlefield. The torn limbs, clothing, and debris of war lay all around him, just as reminders of that day still littered the ground when he returned to hear Lincoln speak on November 19th. Quoting him again, "I thought then, and still think, it was the shortest, grandest speech, oration, sermon, or whatever you please to call it, to which I ever listened." And then I'm going to quote him a little bit later, like a paragraph later. "The world will little note," and then his quote, "if at that moment," remember this guy got pierced in the lung. What did I read before?
Yeah, through the arm and into the lung.
And left for dead.
Yeah.
Okay, listen to what he says about the Gettysburg Address. "If at that moment the Supreme Being had appeared with an offer to undo my past life, give back to me a sound body, free from the remembrance even of sufferings past, and the imminence of those that must necessarily embitter all the years to come, I should have indignantly spurned the offer. Such was the effect upon me of this immortal dedication."
Immortal dedication.
That's what he called the speech.
Yeah.
And he's claiming 30 years later that had God offered him a chance to not have ever gotten hurt or not be there to hear the Gettysburg Address.
Wow.
Martin points out a journalist who noted right in front of this speaker's platform were a bunch of wounded Gettysburg men. Camp Letterman wasn't closed yet, and they had like a front row seat appropriately. And I'm sure Lincoln must have, when he said the living, he must have pointed.
And that's got to be part of the reason why he's choking up or wiping tears away, is because he's looking at these mangled guys. Boys. Yeah.
Right. Ugh. So this journalist noted a one-armed veteran who buried his head in his arm and said, tearfully, crying, sobbing, "God bless you, Abraham Lincoln." Because he was talking about those who here gave their lives that nation might live.
And those were his buddies.
Yeah.
And he almost did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Lincoln came here to give a few appropriate remarks. He had anxiety about it because you're following Edward Everett. And yet, well, everyone knows what Edward Everett said to Lincoln.
Yeah.
And when Lincoln replied back to Edward Everett, he complimented Edward Everett on how he gave honor to the soldiers and their suffering, and to the women who helped relieve that suffering.
Yeah.
I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah. It is. It truly is an immortal speech. We talk about it. Well, now it almost seems like every year we do a show about it because we just love it.
I love this speech. I tell people, you're hiring me to give you a tour. We're going to spend 2 hours and 55 minutes on the second most important thing, unless you tell me you want me to spend more time on the most important thing that happened here. Ever. Yeah. The most important thing ever.
I mean, I can't argue with you. I mean, remember when we did the episode with Jared and Fran, and I forget who, but it might have been Fran or somebody brought examples of other countries referring to the Gettysburg Address in their
Oh yeah, I can
ads or propaganda for war or whatever.
I can mention some if you want me.
Go ahead. Yeah.
You sure?
Yeah, because people might not have seen that.
But this comes from Jared Peatman. Don't do it again, Bob. Jared's book. What is it? The Long Shadow of Lincoln's Gettysburg Address, I think is the title.
Yeah.
Great book.
I'll look it up.
Great book. But anyway, things such as, such as 1850s stamps, Germany, stamps that had a few years earlier had the picture of Adolf Hitler on them, now have the American Liberty Bell, but not the words inscribed on our Liberty Bell, rather Lincoln's words at Gettysburg, a new birth of freedom.
I mean, 1950s, not
1950s,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, yes. Yeah. 1959, Taiwan has a stamp commemorating the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. And it's a picture of Sun Yat-sen with Chinese characters underneath it, the three principles of their government that their Chinese democratic government was based on, not communist Chinese. And on the other side, Lincoln's picture of the people, by the people, for the people. By the way, I often am walking in the cemetery, and sometimes people come to me and say, with broken English, Gettysburg Address, where? They come here, a lot of foreigners come here understanding the most important thing that happened here was that speech, and especially because it quotes all men are created equal, I believe.
Can you think of any examples in your lifetime, or I guess also mine once I came on the scene, where we use a dead head of state from another country for our propaganda purposes or to commemorate their 150th birthday? I mean, I know we've had warm relations with the Queen over the years, but did we ever use her image for anything? It's almost like we have this unwritten rule that we won't do that because there is no higher, no better country in the world to live up. Look, we're the country that everybody aspires to be in or be like.
Yeah.
What was I just watching? Somewhere, some other country around the world, they were having some protest against their country, and they're waving our flag.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we had nothing to do with the fight. They're just waving it as a symbol of freedom and rebellion against tyranny and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
And yet we have people here who think it's a symbol of slavery and oppression and all that other stuff. And it's just such a weird world.
Yeah, it is.
But I guess as long as people are in it, it's going to be.
That's the universal appeal of all men are created equal.
Yeah.
Right? That's the universal appeal.
Yeah.
The golden apple.
Well, Bob, I love what's I guess turning into our annual powwows over the Gettysburg Address, because every time we talk about it, there's something new you bring to the table that we didn't have before. And it just is it kind of lifts my spirits to revisit this speech once a year at least.
Good.
And
same here.
Yeah, it does, because it's something that gives me hope that I think that spirit is still alive in America. I wouldn't dare to say what percentage of the population that's alive in still. Or I would never say it lives in one party or another. I think it's just something that's in all of us, or a lot of us, and most of us, I hope, still. And I think it is something that will always prevail. The spirit is always there, but sometimes the brain suppresses it.
Yeah.
And once in a while, in any society, any culture, any nation, you lose sight of who you are until something horrible happens to remind you. And that's where that spirit comes alive again. And I think we're on the precipice of that moment. I don't know what it is. I had hoped it was 9/11, but in 24 years, we seem to have really lost sight of that unity we had afterwards. And maybe the country didn't, but I know living in North Jersey, seeing people applauding rescue workers coming from New Jersey to go into Manhattan and help on the Brooklyn, or not on the Brooklyn Bridge, on
George Washington.
George Washington Bridge, and at the tunnels and everything like that.
That's awesome.
That was awesome, and it was short lived. That unity, that sense of community there, but it was beautiful to see after the ugliness of those days. And it almost seemed like some forces in our country hated to see that and worked very quickly to put the kibosh on it. Yeah. And here we are.
You remember the first words of the first anniversary of 9/11 at Ground Zero? This would be September 11th, 2002, the very first words of that ceremony, where they're later going to read all the names.
Spoken by who?
Governor Pataki.
No, I don't. No.
This goes to what Jared was talking about. I don't remember if it was an example that Jared brought up or not.
Don't tell me he tried to use 7 years ago.
Exactly.
Oh, he read Didn't he read the Gettysburg Address?
He read, just like we opened this broadcast or this podcast. He did the same thing.
Right.
I think he didn't accentuate the right words. What a critic. Who am I? I'm a critic of him.
He's a governor, damn it.
But it's so appropriate. It goes to the power of the speech that on the first anniversary of 9/11, those were the very first words at another time in American history when government of the people, by the people, for the people was being challenged, just like it is today. So I love your sense of hope and perspective, and Mike's too, although he's pretty quiet over there.
Well, his perspective is sleeping.
I don't know what you guys keep picking on me for. I'm back here doing my job.
I know.
Oh, yeah. I'm not picking on you, Mike.
Mike's falling asleep back there.
No. Every time you say something, it's really
profound.
Yeah.
So, Mike, what do you think? Yeah, we've kind of not heard from you in a while, and what are your thoughts on what we're saying about all this stuff? Not necessarily all the.
It's a great episode. I mean, I've not been privy to sit in on the other episodes you've done about it.
But clearly, you've gone back and listened many times over.
Yeah, I didn't know I was going to go. Oh, whoa. Sorry. Absolutely.
That was a visual. Yeah. See, all you listening on the audio only need to follow us on YouTube so you can see Mikey's expressions.
Think you can find many speeches or orations or anything in the history of the world, yet alone the United States, that you can dive so deep into that you could probably do 10 episodes like this and still not cover all the angles you want to.
No, right.
There's a reason. Like you said, Matt, when we were young, we were taught to memorize it, and it's 7 years.
Yeah.
And there's nothing, I hate that, because
I do too.
Memorization for memorization's sake just dilutes what's actually behind it.
Yes. Yes.
Even when we say the Pledge of Allegiance growing up, same thing. At my age now, like when I was coaching at Gettysburg and the national anthem, and, I'm out there on Clark Field where the 11th Corps fights and dies.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a soccer game, and I'm coaching it, but I'm sitting there hearing the words in my head, and I'm thinking of what happened there. It's so much. Now those words to me are so meaningful,
Yeah.
And, we think, oh, rockets, red glare. It's like, no, those soldiers are there they might die.
Yeah.
But they're standing there. And that flag the next morning is still there.
Yeah.
So I think something like the Gettysburg Address, it's so important for people to go there. And I love, Bob, that you said there's people from all over the world that want to see where it was given.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
Goodness, it's being there and feeling it is so different. It's so much deeper than the words. And this episode especially, I didn't know that Lincoln went out to see where Reynolds was killed. I didn't know that.
Oh, no?
I don't know much about his trip, to be completely honest.
Okay. You're
to
forgiven.
know that he went there and felt probably the same darn thing that we feel, that consecrated ground that none of us can do ourselves. What they did there, he felt that, and he changed what he was going to say. And I think that's wonderful.
Well, he had to feel it worse than we do, heavier than we do, because he's the guy prosecuting this war, and their death, he's the commander in chief. These, all this stuff happened. He's the boss. And that's got to weigh very heavy on you. He knows what it's like to lose a child. So he has to feel.
Yeah, I didn't even think of that angle. I mean,
for every
all the parents,
son's mother and father who died here and throughout the whole war. It's got to weigh on him. No wonder the man was depressed. How could he not be
from
depressed?
the beginning to the end of the war? He aged That weight of all of that is tremendous.
Go out there and look at the Henry Kirk Bush Brown 2004 bust on the Lincoln Address Memorial, and you can see all that weight.
Yeah.
And in one of my talks this summer there, where I had people look at him and say, just holler out, what do you see? The emotions that you see, or whatever you see in his mind, what's going on. I thought it was brilliant. One of the people said, he's looking at the ground. And I said, you're right. And he was really affected by this place.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, something, using the Gettysburg Address to open the first anniversary of 9/11. It's interesting because it's a unifying speech, right? Mm-hmm. It's a call to unify, actually, right? And then, like, okay, here's what's going on. Like, this shitty stuff sucks, but we've got to see it through. We've got to overcome it. We've got to get out to the other side, and we have to build a new future in the ruins of, in this case, the Twin Towers, but the Civil War, whatever. And just like the time when he gave the speech, just because it's the North versus the South doesn't mean people in both of those factions aren't at odds with each other about how things should go or whatever, right? People are always going to disagree no matter what side they're on, even when they're on the same side. That's what we do. And yet it is a speech that Republicans and Democrats, I'm sure then, even though a lot of the Democrat papers were, remember, was it the Harrisburg newspaper that on the 150th anniversary retracted or apologized? Or I forgot technically what they did.
I've got the words.
Do you have that?
Said if you want.
Yes, please read it.
I think
so. While you're looking for it, I'll finish my point. Okay. It was political and politicized even back then, right? Mm-hmm. But I have to believe that there were Democrats who heard that and were moved and were maybe not called to switch party affiliation, but were called to be a little more supportive of Lincoln and his prosecution of the war. Yeah. And I think, even today, you had the Kamala Harris supporter, you had the Trump supporter. They both hear the words of it. They both hear your interpretation of it, and they're both moved by it. And they come to you thinking that you are on their side, right? And what's so sad is that is not a speech of sides, except for really the human side. Now, you could say it's on the American side, but really it's on the side of just being a good human being and not denying to others rights you enjoy yourself. Mm-hmm. And that's why that bothers me so much, that both those people thought it belongs only to their side and that only their side truly understands the ideals in there. Both of them are right, not at the exclusion of the other. They're both right? The Harris supporter and the way she sees it, she's right. Even though she doesn't see it the way the Trump supporter sees it, he's right. What they both need to understand is they could both be right at the same time. Two things can be true at once. And I don't know. I just think it's such a beautiful speech, and it is such a great. It just is so useful, but it also, I think, is not understood fully. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why I like doing these episodes every year, is because great. If the audience comes along with me, wonderful, but I want to understand it more. I want to really get it. I don't want it to be like Mike was saying, that just that mindlessly recited thing like the Pledge of Allegiance and even the national anthem. You brought up the national anthem, Mike, and the Rockets' Red Glare. And I always wonder when I watch some Pop-Tart performing that song at the Super Bowl or whatever, or any sporting event, and when she sings that line, or any of the lines, does she, I don't know why I'm just saying he or she, probably because Whitney Houston did the best version ever. And I'm thinking nobody could top that. But he or she, do they even know what the hell they're talking about?
Most people, and I know I don't want to get off on it because I know Bob has a point, but most people don't. I mean,
That's what I was going to say. When the audience cheers,
and it's rockets, red glare, and boom, the fireworks.
And people go,
like, oh. Did that kill Josiah Thompson from Maryland? I hope so. Like, honestly, but it's because we've just like this speech. We just say it.
Yes.
No, we're just not. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I know. And when the thing that annoys me the most is when what is the home of the? I can never do it without singing the whole song. Land of the brave, home of the free. That part, right? And everybody really cheers. Oh yeah,
Brave, you'll get there.
And it's like, what?
You had it reversed.
Land of the brave. Did I?
Free and home of the brave.
Land of the free and home of the brave, and the home of the brave. You're right. Sorry. See, I had to sing it. People cheer for it, but I would say we're not very brave or free anymore. Like we've given a lot of the freedoms away, and the people who are brave, we put them in jail for saving people on a subway who are getting attacked or something like that. So or just defending their home, And so it annoys me that, and not that my view of things is right either. And I know that. And so whatever, we all have fun and we like to cheer at the national anthem, whatever. But I don't think people really even understand what the words are.
They're cheering because the unsingable song is over. Not for the words, just because it's the octave range.
They're cheering because they hit that high note at the end. I think that's what it's become, actually, is people just cheer for the high note.
Yeah, could be.
All right, so read us that Harrisburg.
Do you really want me to?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So the context of this is what?
This is dated November 19th. I put 2013. I put retracted November 19th, 2013 on 150th anniversary. But this is what they wrote, the Harrisburg Patriot and Union, Harrisburg Patriot. We pass over the silly remarks of the president. For the credit of the nation, we are willing that the veil of oblivion shall be dropped over them, and that they shall no more be repeated or thought of.
Unbelievable, right? Now, that would have been a Democrat paper.
Yeah.
But today, again, a Harris supporter comes up to you, moved by this speech. And obviously, it's now an American speech. It's not a Republican Democrat thing. It's an American speech. Right. And we all are moved by it in some way or another. And then they retracted it on the 150th, right? Better late than never, I guess. Right. But that's the way it goes. That's the way we are. Silly, silly people.
Yeah.
All of us, including myself. But not Mikey B. No. Well, I think this is a good time to end this episode. I hope the audience enjoyed it. And I hope our honesty, yours and mine, and Mikey's, was taken as us trying to explore. I don't know about you guys, but for me, I throw these ideas out there like the Roman Empire thing and everything. It's like I'm trying to figure things out. These aren't necessarily things I believe are true, but I'm trying to figure out what, as people like to say, their truth was. Like what was Stephen's thinking? What were people thinking at that time? It was very different. I can't think like a person in 2025 and apply that to an 1860 person. It's just it's unfair.
Right.
And I know there's people who make the argument that say you absolutely can, and I go, well, then nobody from the past is ever going to be right. Nobody from the past is ever going to be anything but evil. And if you want to think you're better than everybody, then go ahead with that philosophy that you're allowed to apply ideas that didn't exist. And ways of living that didn't exist.
Matt, your thought
to people 160 years ago. What, Mike?
Your thought process is very 1860s. I mean, Lincoln is trying to get people to look in the past and see what they meant. What did the founding fathers mean? No different today than you looking at Lincoln. So I think there's a parallel there that I think in the 1860s, those people struggled like you do to try and figure things out. Where are we going? Where are we supposed to go? At a trying time. And I think there's a great parallel between those two.
Yeah, you're probably right. And you are right. They were trying to figure things out because they were people just like we are. And nothing changes. with human nature. Bob, thank you very much for your research and your insight and your friendship, and for coming here on this blustery Monday.
Oh, it is
quite blustery. And ladies and gentlemen at home, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope maybe you got some, I don't know, new ideas. You learned something new, and Mikey learned something new today. And maybe you have a different perspective on the speech or whatever. Who knows? Go back and listen to some of the old ones, and next year we'll do another one, and we'll have more perspective on that one. And we'll just constantly evolve and learn as we explore the magic and the wonder and the power of the Gettysburg Address. That's it for us now. Thank you very much for joining us, and we'll talk to you next time. I know. Happy Thanksgiving.